All right, we're at 10:02 according to my watch, so let's go ahead and get started. First of all, good to see you again, and thanks for joining us on this wintry morning. If you're like me, you might have the shade drawn. I don't even want to see it right now, so that's how I'm coping with it. Let's see, we'll go ahead and advance the slide here. Same thing we've covered in the past, but I am recording the meeting today so that we can share it on the website so that you can refer back to it, or those who can't be here today can pull it up. Just a reminder to mute yourself if you're not speaking so we can avoid the feedback. I will also share the slides as a PowerPoint so you can refer to those after the meeting. And as always, questions are welcome. Feel free to raise your hand if you need to get my attention that you have a question, or pop it in chat. And if we don't get to your question, feel free to call me or email me or join me at office hours and we can connect for sure. But we'll try to get to everyone's questions today. So our agenda has changed a little bit. We're going to start with introductions in a moment like we usually do. And then our presentation from the Minnesota Homeownership Center is postponed. We'll likely be picking that up next month. So today we're going to jump quickly into program updates and have some time to go into a little more details and then have some discussion and answer questions as well. I'm also going to cover some of the feedback that you provided in your progress reports. Thank you for doing that. I'll share what was included and then provide some responses to questions and comments that you had. We'll have time for just general discussion and questions and answers, and this just ending by reminders about what's coming up next with our next meetings. All right, so let's go ahead and move to introductions. I think we're getting to know each other better as we move forward. So let's see, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you if you choose to come on camera. I'll start. Let's do name, pronouns, organization, and anything else you'd like to share. My name is Vanessa Haight. I'm with Minnesota Housing, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm just gonna kind of call out names to keep it going. Chrissy, let's go over to you.
And Chrissy just sent a note that her internet died. I think she's trying to get connected.
I didn't see that. Then Devin, how about you? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Devin Coleman. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And what's our key question here, Vanessa? Sorry.
Organization.
Oh, Minnesota Housing. I'm the Home Help Program Manager. Nice to see everyone again virtually. We had hoped it would be sunny and like Monday's weather. Like it seems like by March we should be moving into spring, but we were on Monday. We'll get there, right, everyone? We'll get there.
Yes, hopefully. Let's go over to Amanda.
Hey, Amanda from Minnesota Housing, and I'm in a communications role for the project.
Thanks, Amanda. Let's next go to Dave Anderson.
Hi, Dave Anderson, he, him. I'm with All Parks Alliance for Change, or APAC.
Great, good to see you. It looks like Farhan's mic is not muted, so introduction is in the chat from Hyan and St. Cloud. Let's go to Jeanette.
Morning, everyone. Pronouns are she, her. I work for the Law Assistance Center of Minnesota, and I'm in a project management role.
Thank you. Good morning. Let's do Mahmoud.
My name is Mahmoud. I go by he, him, his. I'm with Youth and Family Circle, and I'll be jogging a lot this summer to Sid Capital since I live close to it. So there you go.
Nice. Good to see you. Let's go to Mike Olson.
Hey, Mike Olson here with Somali Community Resettlement Services. Pronouns he, him. Thank you.
Good to see you. Molly. Up your mute, Molly.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Hi, my name is Molly Curry. I'm with New American Development Center, NADC. I prefer to call it he or him or his. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Sharon.
Good morning, Sharon Thompson, Stairstep Foundation, she, her, and I wish it was spring.
Same, me too. Matur.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Matur Alier with South Sudanese Foundation. Him, he.
Great, thanks for being here. I think we got everyone. I'm not sure if Chrissy's back yet. I don't think so. Did we miss anybody? Did I miss anybody? We got everyone. Okay, great. Thank you. Good to see you all. I'm gonna pop these slides back up. All right, so we're gonna go into some program updates, and I'm gonna turn it over to Devin, who's gonna kick this off for us.
All right, thanks everybody. Gosh, my computer seems slow today. It must want it to be spring too. It's like trudging slowly with all this snow out there. Well, we're excited to provide some significant program updates today and really get some good agenda time with all of you so we can delve into helping to orient you so that you can move into community engagement from a place of getting good understanding about the home help program and feeling confident as you move into your engagement work, which I know we are getting close to getting some of the engagement sessions scheduled and moving forward with engagement session planning. So excited to be in that space with all of you today. And so these program updates are really intended to help give you some foundational understanding so you can move into that engagement work more confidently. And then coming out of today's session, if there are other areas that you want to dive into more, and as we get a little further into having the online system finalized, a lot of the work we're doing right now is translating the program application into the online system and figuring out what are different statuses that applications will have kind of as applications move through the pipeline. Those are things that, just to preview that, we'll look forward to being able to provide more information in April with all of you on as well. But hopefully this provides a good foundation of the key elements of the program for your initial engagement planning and outreach that you're getting ready to start to begin. So next slide, please, Vanessa. Look forward to your feedback today as well. So for the Home Help MN program, we've designed the program largely to align with the Treasury guidelines and really have worked to try and take advantage of where there are flexibilities within the overall Treasury guidance. There are a couple of areas where we have made a Minnesota housing specific policy, and I'll try and highlight some of those. There are really fairly few areas related to that, but there are a couple of areas where we have made some additional Minnesota housing policy choices around how we implement the home help program, and I'll try and explain those and why we've made those policy choices to help orient you as well. Because I think one thing you'll see, particularly, I know some of you do work in border state communities, so you may see that the HAF program or the Homeowner Assistance Fund program, as it's called nationally, may look different, for example, in North Dakota than it does in Minnesota than it does in Wisconsin. And so there are some different choices states are making about how to direct and how to prioritize assistance. So I'll try and make sure I highlight those as well as we move through the presentation today. But in terms of who's eligible for the program, those who are eligible have to own and live in the home, and it needs to be the sole or primary residence in Minnesota. So this seems obvious, but every time we administer a program like this, we do get questions about, well, is my cabin eligible? No, the answer to that would be no. Or is my home in another state eligible? No. Again, in order to use this program, you need to reside in Minnesota, you need to own the home, and it does need to be your primary residence. The applicants need to meet the program income requirements. I'm going to talk about those, give some examples of the program income requirements in a little more detail in the next slide as well, but that's really a key fundamental driver of the program, This is an area where Treasury guidelines do give us some flexibility around using something they call geographic-based, fact-based proxies to help determine who needs to provide full income documentation and who doesn't. And so we have tried to use those fact-based proxies rather liberally in our program to allow homeowners that reside in specific zip codes that meet certain median income requirements, the ability to kind of move into the program without providing full income documentation. So I'll talk about that in a subsequent slide as well. But that's a space where the income requirements are a fundamental program requirement under this particular program. The next one is the homeowner has to have experienced a COVID-19 related financial hardship on or after January 21st, 2020. And that's a firm date in the guidance that, again, this program is a COVID relief program authorized under the American Rescue Plan. And so it is designed to help support homeowners that have experienced a COVID related financial hardship. And that's, again, a firm requirement of the program. And the way that that hardship does get defined is somewhat liberal, because it has to be a material reduction in income or a material increase in living expenses. And so I think many homeowners will have experienced a material reduction in income, but there will be some homeowners who maybe had a material increase in living expenses. Maybe they had to have a child move back in with them, or an adult child, or someone they're caregiving for move back in with them, and that increased their living expenses. So it's really important to note that it's not just a reduction of income, it's also a material increase of living expenses that could determine eligibility and COVID impact for a homeowner. So I just really want to emphasize that. I think that's a good allowance under the Treasury guidelines. And the homeowner has to have had past due mortgage or other housing related expenses on or after January 21st, 2020. So again, we're using that COVID impact date as a cutoff date. So their past due has to have occurred on or after that date. Go ahead and next slide, please. So let's talk about the income limits for just a minute. To qualify for financial assistance, homeowners have to have an income equal to or less than 100% of the area median income, or 100% of the median income for the United States, whichever is greater. The whichever is greater component of the program requirements is really important, because in many communities that the area median income is lower than the median income of the United States. So that creates a little bit more bandwidth in the ability to serve more homeowners. So that's a really important component of the income requirements under the program. I also want to talk for just a minute about the 100% area median income requirement. That is a requirement that Minnesota Housing has established for the program. Technically, the Treasury guidelines allow us to serve households up to 150% of area median income. We are recommending and have gotten our plan approved to serve people at 100% of area median income, both because of the dramatic need for the amount of assistance. When we calculate the number of homeowners who are behind, who are at or below 100% of area median income, it is a significant number of delinquencies in Minnesota. And we want to prioritize this assistance to lower income homeowners and more moderate income homeowners to help ensure that those homeowners can be served. We do expect this program to be oversubscribed, so we anticipate that there will be more demand for available funding. And so establishing the income limit at that 100% area median income level helps us to target resources that we anticipate will not be able to stretch to be available for all Minnesotans. We've included a link in this slide to the half income limits and wanted to make sure that you had, and we've got some examples in the next slide as well, but we wanted to make sure that you had the ability to start to look up what the income limits might be in the areas that you are looking to serve for your communities. So this program does follow HUD income guidelines. And then the next bullet notes that the income limits do get renewed annually. And so the current income guidelines that that are out and publicly available for the program are current as of right now, but we do anticipate that there will be an update to the income limits that could come as early as this spring. We don't know when HUD will change or update the income limits. They don't give us the date, but it does often happen in the April-ish timeframe. So there could be changes to the income limits. We just want to make you aware of that. And we don't know for certain yet either whether the income limits will increase or if they will decrease. Certainly if the income limits increase, that just creates more opportunity to serve more homeowners. If they decrease, you know, there might be some slight adjustments downwards. So that's something we just want to keep our community connectors attuned to, the fact that we anticipate that there could be some change in the income limits coming yet this spring, and that might be timed close to when the program actually launches. But we'll all just have to watch and wait and see when HUD releases those income limits. Go ahead, next slide, Vanessa. So here's an example. We wanted to give you have you had the opportunity to just see how the income, these are the current income limits for the program, what that 100% area median income means and how it plays out. And so we have two different geographies listed here. The income limits are specific to county as well as household size. And so we can see here that in the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington, HUD metro area, we have income limits that range from a one-person household of $79,900 up to a five-person household of $113,300. And then moving into more of greater Minnesota, you can see here that for Lyon County, those income limits are $79,900, and then there's a slight adjustment made for the five-person household for Lyon County. So just wanted you to have some context around the current income limits. And again, just also recommend that you stay connected. And I know Vanessa will keep you updated if and when there are any changes to the income limits. But hopefully that provides you with some context around the types of incomes that can be supported under the HAF program. So again, it is designed to help serve up to a fairly moderate income homeowner. Go ahead, next slide, please, Vanessa. So let's talk for just a few minutes about the proxy zip code piece. So this is an opportunity under the Treasury guidance. We have the ability to use a geographic-based proxy that aligns with the HAF program income limits. So we have selected zip codes as our geographic-based proxy. And so for homeowners that live in our case, we've identified 460 proxy zip codes. They have the ability to have kind of a streamlined application process where they have the opportunity to attest that their income meets the program eligibility income guidelines. And if they attest to that and can attest to that affirmatively, they do not need to provide any additional income documentation with the application. We know sometimes that gathering some of that income documentation can take some time. So we see this as a really great advantage of the HAF program and home help program, being able to use this fact-based specific proxy. And we wanted to design a proxy that, you know, both drives toward the intent of the Treasury guidance, which it says that we really need to focus our geographic-based proxy on households and geographies that meet the HAF income guidelines, but also trying to create opportunities so that we didn't just create two geographies that met that, for example. We really tried to expand that so that as many households as we felt reasonable could move forward through the use of that geographic-based proxy. And so our zip code proxy criteria we established is a median household income for homeowners plus a little bit of margin of error that is less than or equal to 100% of the AMI for a three-person household as defined by HAF. So based on that analysis, that's how we came up with the 460 proxy zip codes. And those zip codes capture just over 50% of the state's zip codes, 39% of the state's homeowner households, and 45% of the state's 30-day plus delinquent home mortgages since April of 2022. So That's the zip code proxy. And the way this will get operationalized in the program when people apply, when they submit their application in the online system, or if they choose to call into the call center and a call center processor enters in their address information, that will determine whether or not they're in one of these zip code proxies. And then the system will have some automatic intelligence to determine whether or not they have to actually upload income documentation or not. And again, if they are in one of the zip code proxies, they will not be required to upload income documentation, provided they can attest to the fact that their income still meets program income requirements. I'm going to pause there and just see if there are any questions on that. Not hearing any, we will go ahead and move to the next slide, please, Vanessa. We're really excited about this, though. So we think it's a good way to try and make the program more accessible and more streamlined. So just a reminder, I know we've talked about the type of available assistance through the HAF or home help program. The primary types of available assistance, we tend to think of them in two buckets. One as direct financial assistance, and then the other as important referrals for counseling or other supports. I know at our community connector last month, we had a presentation from Department of Commerce on utility assistance. Certainly housing counseling would fall in that bucket of non-financial assistance through HAF, but many home help eligible homeowners may ultimately get referred to a housing counselor, foreclosure prevention counselor, that can help support them with budgeting and other pieces to help them understand kind of their understand components around their financial stability and their delinquency and mortgage and or other housing related expenses. In terms of the direct financial assistance, there are really kind of two critical areas that we will support and expect to see the greatest demand for resources. Those relate to the first being a mortgage reinstatement. What a reinstatement means is that the funds will be used to bring a homeowner current on their mortgage. So essentially, the HAF funds can be used to bring any of the mortgage arrearages current, or if it's delinquent taxes, if the homeowner owns the home outright, or if it's, those types of other past due housing expenses would also be eligible. So again, the reinstatement is for the mortgage, but then other past due housing expenses, if there are delinquencies or back taxes, or in cases where manufactured homes are owned, if there's lot rent that is due, those types of arrearages or delinquencies could be brought current through the home help program. So we're really excited about that. We've done some modeling to try and understand what the average delinquency amounts are. I think we're in the neighborhood of $10,000 to $12,000 now, kind of as people's financial impact and as time passes. I think some of the loan servicers we've been looking at for portfolios specific to Minnesota, many homeowners have caught back up with their mortgage payments, but those who have not have gotten a little further behind. So we'll learn more once the program opens about what the average delinquency amounts are. But in the mortgage arena right now, some of the analytics that we're looking at tends to put that in the $10,000 to $12,000 range is what we're anticipating. And of course, we'll know more once the program opens. And then what that average delinquency amount for taxes or homeowners insurance or lot rent, those things will look different for each individual homeowner, of course, as well. Next slide, please. Okay, in terms of the application process, I know there is so much eagerness on behalf of our community connectors because we certainly want to get the program up and operational to serve homeowners in need. And as we're working to finalize the details of the system and the phone tree and our call center, we want to make sure it's really important we understand how homeowners will be handled from a customer service perspective with the best quality care. So part of our program development, and really a lot of where our work is currently focused on right now, relates to making sure we have as seamless as possible customer service experience for homeowners that apply to the Home Help MN program. There are 3 ways that that homeowners will be able to apply to Home Help MN. The first is through an online application that will be available on the homehelpmn.org website. We've purchased the domain name. That's the right name. You can start to bookmark that. And you won't see the website fully populated yet, but it's kind of exciting. There's a real domain name out there, and that will be our homehelpmn.org. That will be our primary website. And once the program launches, that will be the primary place to go. So at least the domain name is there, and we'll be working to get that populated. We anticipate that you'll start to see things move within the next 30 days or so. So that will be really exciting. We also will be able to support paper-based applications. We recognize not everyone has access to online tools or will be comfortable using online tools. And so we have paper-based applications that can be mailed in or faxed in. And so we will support paper or faxed applications as well as part of our application process. And then last, but certainly not least, is that for homeowners that would like more support in filling out and completing that application, they are welcome to do so by contacting the call center. And the call center staff will essentially fill out the application online and walk homeowners through kind of line by line that application and all of the application questions. And so that's another really great option. And we anticipate that the call center support in particular could be really valuable and really helpful for those that would benefit from language interpretation as well. So that's another option just to consider and make sure people feel supported. Or again, if it's a combination of just questions people have for the call center as they're independently completing the online application, that's certainly a great option as well. We are building into our process that applicants will have 30 days to complete an application, including any documents that are required to be uploaded. So when people start an application, and once they hit the submit button, we do anticipate that the program will launch where people will be able to actually submit an application. They have to fill out all the online fields, but they still will be able to submit an application if there's an upload missing. And so those applications will then move into a processing queue and will get supported by processors who will then be reaching out to homeowners for any missing upload components to their application. And we'll talk a little bit about the document checklist in today's presentation as well to give you some orientation to documents that homeowners will need to start preparing to be able to submit a final completed application. And so even though those applications, again, will move into that queue, there's still a 30-day time period. We are asking homeowners to be able to gather all that information within 30 days so that we can efficiently process applications within the queue. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to talk about the document checklist. I don't know, do we have Chrissy back online?
I don't think so. So I could pull it up here and walk through it.
Yeah. Or we can tag team too. So we wanted to take some time. We'll let Vanessa kind of pull that up. We wanted to take a little bit of time just to walk through that application checklist. And while she's pulling that up, the other thing I wanted to do, actually, I see you have it up, so we'll do this. The other thing I wanted to do is just do a quick online tutorial of the income and how to check the income by county. So I have that up on my screen. We'll maybe do that right after the document checklist. But so in terms of oh, perfect. Thank you, Vanessa. So in terms of documents that homeowners will need to gather in order to process the application, we created this document checklist that identifies those documents that homeowners will need to start to gather to be able to proceed with fully uploading their applications. So the first bucket is that homeowners will need to provide some type of proof of ownership. So again, that's one of the core requirements of the HAF program is that the home has to be owner occupied. So there is a requirement that some documentation of proof of ownership needs to be provided. So from an engagement perspective, we wanted to get this information out to all of you so that you could just start to orient to the types of documents that homeowners will need to assemble and be prepared to upload as part of their online application or mail in if they're going to do the mail in option. So under proof of ownership, the preferable and first form that we're recommending that people provide to demonstrate proof of ownership would be the property tax bill. That's really the definitive piece of ownership that's really important. And again, those can be, those are mailed to homeowners, I think, on a twice a year annual basis, but also can be generated online through county specific lookups. So the homeowner would go to their county where they own their home. You can usually look that up by address or parcel number and generate that information there as well. Other potential options could be a warranty deed or a contract for deed under proof of ownership. So moving into the second kind of key bucket would be photo identification for all applicants. And this would be state issued, federal issued, tribal or other photo identification for all applicants is something that they would need to upload as part of their application. The third bucket is income documentation. And as we talked about previously, this would only be generated and this requirement would only hold for those households that are not in the zip code proxies. So homeowners in the 460 zip code proxies would not see this. They would just have to attest that they meet the program household income limits. But those who are not in those zip codes would have to provide income documentation. And income documentation does have to be provided for all household members. So it's not just the income for the owner or owners of the home, it's household income. And that's a HUD guideline. So that's just something we have to live with. So all household members listed in the application, their income needs to be provided in that application. Again, if the household doesn't need the zip code proxy. There are two ways that homeowners or households can document their income, and only one needs to be provided for each household member. So the first, and I think what would be the easiest, would be to provide the adjusted gross income as reported on the most recent federal income tax return, Form 1040 series. So it would be uploading that documentation. Or it would be to use your current income and most recent pay information by providing upload documentation of pay statements, receipts, any kind of eligibility letters if the household receives Social Security, SSDI, or other government benefit programs, bank statements showing deposit amounts or other pay documents. We do have a form for households with no income, just to be able to clearly demonstrate and document that there is no income for additional household members. So again, two different ways that income can be supplied there. And moving down. Housing assistance documentation. So here, it's a copy of a recent statement for all accounts for which the homeowner is requesting payment for. So if they're requesting payment for mortgage arrearages and delinquency, it would be the most recent mortgage statement that should have that arrearage and delinquency amount on it. If it's a manufactured mobile home payment, provide a recent loan statement. If it's lot rent, we want the homeowner to provide the past due notice of the lot rent owed. If it's a co-op condo or homeowners association fee or charges, a statement from that specific association, again, showing that arrearage amount and delinquency amount. What we're really looking for on this documentation is the arrearage amount so that we understand the amount owed and the delinquency owed from the homeowner. And then property taxes, that would be the most recent statement from the county or potentially the municipality. I think typically it would be the county. Similarly, homeowners insurance would be that recent statement from the homeowners insurance company. And a contract for deed would be the most recent statement and a copy of the recorded contract for deed documents. So that's the housing assistance documentation that we would look to have the homeowner upload as part of that application. And so Those really are the upload pieces that we anticipate homeowners needing to provide. And again, those using the fact-based proxy would just have to do that attestation. Any questions on the documentation?
Yes, I do have a question.
Go ahead.
So yeah, so the information you just shared with us, the document checklist, the income documentation, and the also housing assistance documentation. Now, I just want to understand one thing. When the public will be applying, that will be the information that they will get if they go online or if they call a call center. Or if they ask me, I can give them this information.
That's right. So we anticipate like this information once the website gets built out, we would have basically that document checklist that Vanessa just scrolled through that would be on our website so that people would be able to get ready to apply. You know, before they sat down, if they chose to do the online application, they would pull up what documents do I need to assemble and have available in order to apply. So that information would be populated on the website and would be a great, part of the engagement work that you'll be coordinating and leading with folks just to help them understand, there are kind of 3 key potential pieces of documentation they may need to assemble and be prepared to upload, again, if they're doing the online version of the application. That's absolutely correct. Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
One more question again. So will this information be in different languages, or there will be, I know maybe, will they be getting will they be, when they call the information, if they can't speak English, of course I know there will be translators here.
Right. So there's 2 different options. We're translating the application into 3 languages.
Sure.
And Amanda, can you just confirm our document checklist is included in that bundle? Is that correct? I think Amanda.
Yes, it will be translated.
Thank you. Yep. So into the 3 languages. But then if there is a question about, what do you mean by this term, or any, if there are any translation questions that come up through, hopefully the translations works well. But again, some of these terms are a little specific to mortgage terminology. The call center is there to support through kind of a direct connects access point. And Vanessa is going to talk about that too today, so that you'll get some orientation to how the call center will work to help with interpretation too. So there's kind of 2 backstops that we're trying to help support homeowners with those language access needs.
Okay. Just one more last question again. When I'm looking at the income, I was looking for, I think you talk about the eligibility. Let me look at my notes here. You said the event must have occurred from 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My concern is, what about if somebody had he was not able to pay mortgage or pay mortgage from the beginning of last year, from the beginning of January 2020, but then at the end of the year his life or her life changed, so he's able to get a job and able to make payments for the current mortgage. So my question is, can we go back now and can this person apply this program and be able to get funding to fix those prior mortgage late payments?
Yes. So that would be the reinstatement, assuming that homeowner had a COVID impact and met all eligibility guidelines on or after that January 2020 date, right? Sure. And then subsequently, let's say a year later, regained employment and is on their way. Yay, happy path. But they have some arrearages from those missed payments. That's that mortgage reinstatement. Absolutely. This assistance can help with those back payments. Yes.
Thank you.
Great question, Sam. Thanks for asking.
I appreciate
Let's pause, see if others have any other questions.
I just had a follow-up question. A follow-up question with that one. For the income guidance, will the income go back as far as 2020, or is it just the current income? Even if they were to change jobs or something happen, does it go back or just the current income?
Yeah, so this is a great question. You're thinking like a program manager. We'll have to get you into the agency at some point. Because we grappled with this a little bit, and we have settled on we're using their current income. So, and the way we're doing that is through the most recent tax return. So we aren't going back to what their income was at the time of the COVID impact. It's the current income at the time they apply. And so that's the income that we're using to meet program eligibility guidelines. Great question.
Thank you.
I see one other question. Someone's got their hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, about the income. You mentioned about every has to be listed on the income. Like for the 1040, if the kids are not somehow the tax person did not include the kids on the 1040, will that gonna be work, or are we gonna ask more documents from them?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think, there could be several iterations of the income documentation question. Let's add that to the FAQs, Vanessa. Some of these income questions, I think, so are you saying like, and this might be a good question to kind of take offline, but are you saying the children actually earned income, but it wasn't reported in the taxes? I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, for the tax, no, they don't earn any income, but they.
Yep. Then it just is based off the 1040. Exactly. And we aren't counting. We'll want to double check this, but I think according to our guide, we aren't counting income if they're 17 or 18 or under. This is something we'll need to validate with Chrissy, Vanessa, if you don't mind validating. But I think if it's only if they're 18 and older that we would even count the income. But let me validate. Let's let Vanessa validate that so that we're clear about the income with the household members.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Great questions. Yeah, income can be a rabbit hole. There's lots of nuances in that space. You're asking the right questions. Any other final questions on what we've covered? Otherwise, I had hoped to show you the income chart or how to this lookup tool because it is really slick. But I know there's other content Vanessa needs to cover, so we can push that out over email, or I know she does office hours too and can kind of show you how that works, because HUD actually does a nice job on the income lookup tool of they apply whether or not the US median is actually greater than the area median income. So you don't have to muck around with trying to figure that out. So it's actually a pretty good lookup tool. It just takes a little adjustment to get in there and look at it. But I don't want to take the rest of our agenda time because I know we've got some other good material to cover. What's the next slide, Vanessa? I might have a couple more here before I turn it back over to you. Okay, so we talked about this, I think, in our last Community Connector meeting. But again, recognizing just how critical this work is around community engagement and helping to reach homeowners, not just so that they know about the Home Help MN program and exactly to the points of some of the questions that have come up today, and making sure people really understand what missed payments may be eligible to be assisted under this program, but also really feeling supported and understanding how to apply and what documentation they need to assemble so that that application process can be as smooth and seamless as possible, and that we can help get those questions answered early in the early stages and as much upfront as possible. So we know that your role working and helping to support homeowners, both with awareness and support and answering questions and helping get them connected to others if you don't have all the answers, or working through with Vanessa if there's questions we haven't thought about, because there will be some of those that come up too, so that we can get those addressed in real time. And then ultimately that homeowner will get that good support once they reach out to the call center or that they complete that online application. So just on behalf of Vanessa and the Minnesota Housing team, just want to extend appreciation and a thank you for your support in this important program and role in delivering this resource to Minnesota homeowners. Next slide, please. I'm going to turn over to Vanessa on this one. She's really been leading our call center work in addition to the work she does with our community connectors. So she'll be able to kind of walk through how the call center will operationally work to support homeowners. So Vanessa, you want to take it away?
Yes, thank you. So today I'm just going to give an overview of the call center, but want you to know that when we meet on April 6th, I'll be able to go into more detail about how calls flow through the call center and really those nitty-gritty details. But today I just wanted to give you kind of a heads up on what we're planning. So first of all, we're going to have a 1-800 number, a dedicated number for home help with trained agents ready to answer calls. And so those agents will be able to answer questions about the program, provide general customer service for the application process. But as Devin mentioned, I think one of the most important things is that they'll be able to complete applications over the phone with callers. So folks can call in and walk through the application with the agent. They will still have to provide that documentation that we saw on that checklist, but they do have the opportunity to call in and just walk through the application rather than going online or doing a paper one. Just wanted to note that we do have service level agreements in place with our vendor, and we expect high quality customer service from the call agents. And I know that has been brought up in previous meetings and kind of what folks are going to get when they call this number. So just want to reiterate that we have high expectations. If you have feedback on, experiences of your community members or whatnot, be sure to share them with us because we will be tracking that. And then, we're hopeful that it will be great service, but we do want to hear if there's issues. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about interpretation. So we will be partnering with Language Line to provide interpretation services. So when callers call into that 1-800 home help number, there will be a main menu right away asking folks to select their language. And there will be the following options. There will be English, Spanish, Somali, and Hmong. And then there will be an other language option. So those will be programmed right into the menu. So if a caller selects Somali, that caller will be put on hold while an agent is connected and an interpreter is connected. And it will be done pretty seamlessly and quickly. And so that when the caller is connected again, they'll have an agent, a customer service agent, and also an interpreter on the line immediately. So that will be pretty seamless for those program languages, so Somali, Spanish, and Hmong. And then the all other languages, there's access to over 120 other languages. That process will be a little bit different in that the caller will connect to a Language Line customer service rep to help identify what language is needed and then get the right interpreter on the line. So there'll be a little bit additional step in there, but I think it will still ensure folks are connected to the right language and right interpreter. We did do some work to confirm that the languages that you are seeing in your work and in your communities are represented in the Language Line list. And so I think there will be great coverage for many languages of folks that will be calling the call center. And I think that's it on that piece.
I'm going to try and go quickly through the next couple of slides. Saw a great question come through about dry runs. So I think there'll be some great opportunity to do some brainstorming and good thinking about what that would look like. And if people would like some, brief orientation to what that online system will look like, we're going through all that configuration right now. I know it's frustrating because it's not open yet, but we're going through system setup and testing. So I know Vanessa will be open to your thoughts and ideas about, what additional resources would be helpful or orientation would be helpful once we get the system fully tested. And we're in testing right now and configured, and we can certainly talk through some of those things. So I'll go through the next couple of slides briefly, but thanks for those questions. Keep them coming in through the chat. So again, available funding, we do anticipate that the need for the funds will exceed availability. So again, that's where your role in helping support homeowners most in need and helping them to be successful and understand the program requirements and upload and documentation requirements will be really, really important. And again, we will be following Treasury guidance as it relates to the program and targeting low income and socially disadvantaged individuals at greatest risk of foreclosure, including making sure those at greatest risk who have the ability to still be served have some prioritization and processing time. Next slide, please. Steps to take again today. I know we've covered this, but just quick reminders. Please encourage until the program's open and applications, we can start taking them in. Homeowners shouldn't wait. They should still reach out and contact their loan servicer today to explore affordable loss mitigation workout solutions. Certainly connect with a HUD-approved housing counselor today. And then, as we've talked about, the energy assistance programs available and open for those that might need help with those utility payments. You will see when the program opens, some states are providing half assistance for utility payments. We are not, because our Department of Commerce has other funding to support that. And so we really want to support delinquencies here with this program. And then I know you've all signed up for e-news, but just encourage homeowners that you're starting to work with in your engagement sessions to sign up as well, because that's where we'll be communicating additional program timelines. So as you're doing that engagement and early outreach, the signing up for e-news is a really important call to action. Next slide, please. There's the e-news link. Next slide. Program timeline. So we're in the final stages of program preparation. So software testing, UAT testing, phone setup, interpretation connection, processing queues, making sure we've got reporting structured, because we have back-end reporting we need to account to Treasury for on the program uses. We are full into that type of program preparation behind the scenes, making sure we have statuses clearly identified in the system, what communication will go out to homeowners at different points in the process. That's really the configuration and setup and the work that's happening internally right now. I know Vanessa's got an April 6th next sort of opportunity to connect with community connectors and start to provide some launch training. I think we're targeting and emphasizing the marketing toolkit and supporting you with that so that you can move into your engagement planning on the 6th. Mid-April, we are targeting 2 public webinars. We anticipate offering both a public webinar, likely more focused with stakeholders, program stakeholders during the day, but also a webinar focused at helping to support homeowners. So we are targeting mid to a little bit later April-ish for those public webinars, where we'll release more program details and program information at that time. And then late May is when we're anticipating launching the program. And we're anticipating 3 stages to the program launch. The first would be launching that website. You've got the domain, so you're ready to go once it populates, where we would provide some get ready information, things like the income limits, the documentation checklist that you've had a preview of today would be first made available via that public website to give people an opportunity to get program materials ready to submit and also really help them determine if they're eligible or not. The second stage would be the call center would open initially for some period of time, not a prolonged period of time, but some period of time where they would be available to help answer calls or questions in that get ready stage. And then the application would formally open and we would start to take applications in. Next slide, please. Almost to program launch. So we recognize you're ready to go and you're waiting for the program to launch, and so many homeowners are waiting for the program to launch, and that it's a stressful time and really hard to kind of wait and not have a launch date set. Please know that we are working arduously to move forward, and we are really in a coming together stage, and we are almost there. Almost there when we'll be able to start sharing more information publicly and certainly more information with you once we get through, again, some of these final configuration and testing meetings and timelines. It is time to begin planning your outreach and engagement efforts. Vanessa, do you want to cover that point?
Yep, sure. Just can't think of the word, encouragement to get started with thinking about your timeline for engagement events. I know I've had some one-on-one conversations with you all, and it's challenging to plan when you don't have the materials and the items and the clarity that you need, but I would encourage you to start thinking about April and May and what you might be able to get on the calendar to start doing some promotions and conversations with homeowners.
And then we understand that you hold valuable, trusted relationships with customers, and that they will likely come back to you for assistance. And again, while we're certainly prepping and working with the call center to make sure that they provide the utmost care and assistance with applicants, both in terms of helping support people with questions, if there are interpretation services needed, all of those types of things. If you are getting feedback, any type of feedback at all, and that can include both positive and negative feedback, maybe even neutral feedback, process is fine. We just really encourage that open door communication with Vanessa and our team at Minnesota Housing, because we want to hear what you're hearing from your trusted relationships and people who are experiencing this process in your communities. So just want to extend that open invitation to please loop back and let us know how things are going, kind of once some of those channels become more open and accessible. And I think next bullet kind of covers it too. We want your feedback, and Vanessa's got a great structured with the progress reports at meetings, but I know she's always available too, just to reach out to, and really values those connections with you. And you know, you're going to be in a pivotal place to help us really understand how our vendor is performing. You know, as Vanessa said, we have contractual obligations that we've negotiated with our call center and our processing team to make sure that there is good customer care and good quality that's being provided. At the same time, we anticipate there'll be some new questions that come up and things we won't have anticipated, and we want to work through with our vendor together on those and homeowners to get those questions answered. But if anything isn't feeling right, or you see opportunities or hearing opportunities for improvement, just want to keep that open door of communication open with us and recognize you're in a really critical place to help give us that real-time feedback too. So, and your partnership is critical for us reaching who we are trying to reach and serve with this program, and we couldn't do it without you. And just heartfelt appreciation for the work you do and your commitment to this program and working with us as we get some of these operational details up and running. Next slide. I think this goes back over to Vanessa to close us out. So thank you. I'll sign off camera.
Thank you, Devin. Are there any questions that you want to ask before I move into progress reports?
I just had one question about the website coming up, the homehelp.org. Will that have a place where it will say these are the community connected helpers? I know some of the community members, when they go to a website, you know, they try to look for, you know, who's helping in this program that I can communicate to before I apply, so I can understand. Will the community connectors be placed on their names on that website that, you know, is being built up right now?
Right, good question. We weren't planning. One concern we had is that you could get many phone calls. We publish that you're available, and we know that your role is fairly narrowly defined to outreach, you know, and your funding is limited. So if we published your names and numbers, you could be getting many calls rather than just the communities you focus on. But we can talk more about that too, if that's something that you are hoping for.
Thank you, just wanted to know.
All right, we'll have time for questions after I talk about the progress report. So I just wanted to go through what I received from you all. First of all, thank you for including thoughts on the progress report, the successes, challenges you're experiencing, feedback, and I just wanted to share kind of our responses or my responses, and I'll send this to you by email too. And I'm going to do my best to just track and document feedback. We had talked about this months ago, that it's helpful to really make sure we're documenting the feedback that comes in and our responses or our action that we're taking. So I think, you know, Devin has hit on this, and I think I'll just reiterate that there is, you know, challenge and frustration that we're all waiting for the program, right? The homeowners are waiting for the program. And we're going to do our best to get you set up to share the information as soon as possible. And hopefully with today's information, you feel even more prepared than you were before this meeting. There was, you know, questions about when we're going to get information about the call center and marketing materials. The toolkit we are aiming to have to you in early April. So that should be ready to go for you. And then the call center, you know, we learned a little bit about it today. I'll have more details when we meet in April, and the call center won't be operational until several weeks, but we'll be sure to let you know when all of those things launch so that you're prepared to share that. And I did see the question, is there a way for community connectors to try out the call center and perhaps the application process? And I'm going to take that back to my team and ask about that because I think your feedback would be very valuable. There was a comment about that requirements and expectations are ambiguous. And I just wanted to, get more information on that, either one-on-one or in the group, that just wanted to learn more about, is it the expectations of the community connectors or the expectations and requirements around the program? We'd love to kind of hear more about that. I don't know if anybody wants to share that now. You're welcome to do so, but we can also talk about it later. If anybody else has similar feedback, we can talk through that. I'm going to keep going, but feel free to interrupt if you have something to add. We have talked about the challenge here of that community members will come back to you. You'll do your outreach work. Perhaps they'll go and apply, run into questions or stumble blocks. They'll probably come back to you because you have that trusted relationship. And we just want to recognize, I think that is one of the challenges of the program and how we funded you to do outreach. And I think as we move forward, just sharing your feedback on what that looks like. Are folks getting the assistance they need from the call center agents? Are they really relying on you? I want to keep getting feedback on that as we move forward. There is concern about the level of funding. You all prepared budgets and best guesses of how expensive engagement sessions and outreach will be. I think as you are reporting each month, it will be helpful to see, the true costs of things, and we can definitely talk one-on-one as you experience differences in your actual expenses versus your budget and how we can address that. And then there was a question specifically about PowerPoint. I know many of you are doing webinars or in-person events. The marketing consultant will be putting together a PowerPoint template that you'll be able to customize and use for your presentation. So that is not something you'll need to create from scratch. Same with flyers and radio and TV talking points. Those will all be coming to you in early April. So you won't be having to create that from scratch. If you need to have it translated into a different language, we can talk about that and work on that. But you should at least have a base piece of information to use for a PowerPoint, for a flyer, for talking points. That's all going to be provided for you. Any comments, concerns, questions based on this feedback that you wanted to talk about today? Okay, Jeanette, I see your comment. I know we all develop budgets, but we want to be aggressive with outreach and education when the program kicks off. What happens if we end up spending all of the dollars? Yeah, I think that is something that we need to be a bit flexible on, is that the first several months of the program launch are going to be probably more intense than the following months. And depending on the demand of this program, funds could move fairly quickly. So we've talked internally that we need to have flexibility with that. And so let's just stay in communication with what you have planned, what you're looking at in terms of how the budget is going and how you expect to spend it. I think we don't expect that you use, this chunk of your budget over the 2 years period, an equal chunk every month because of this kind of intense outreach period that we're going to have when the program launches. So it's going to be really intense. You'll probably spend more time, more money right up front, and then have it taper off is my expectation. But let's stay in communication about how that actually plays out. Jeanette, did that answer your question? Anybody else have a question?
You did, thank you. I just kind of want to elaborate on that a little bit. And part of it has to do with how the rent help program went into sunset. kind of thing when it, started to close down and the dramatic nature in which that happened. And we want to also make sure that the communities and individuals that we're serving get access to what they need right away. So part of it has to do, is there a plan in place, or I'm sure conversations have been held about the monitoring of the overall larger fund of money, and then how will we as community connectors be aware that, okay, the program is, the funding status of the program is here, and we anticipate just based on what we're seeing and based on trends that it will be sunsetting within, I don't know, 4 or 5 months or something like that. How is all of that going to play out? Or I guess maybe just knowing those conversations are happening too.
Yeah, great question, Devin. I see you're on camera.
Yeah, I'm happy to take this one. And I think your latter point, I just want to underscore that those conversations are happening. We are working with our partner at Accenture to build a forecast model and a projection tool so that we can both be managing, what's been committed in terms of funds, what's been dispersed in terms of funds, and then most importantly, what's in the application pipeline, what's in this 30-day queue, and making sure there's some integrated understanding. And then, trying to do some modeling based on application volume. So, if our application volume's been holding steady at, X number of applications a week, based on everything in these 3 buckets, the applications in process, the applications where we've approved them and their sort of money's been reserved, and then where it's been dispersed, how much time do we anticipate, given that anticipated pace, we could continue to keep the program open? And so, that's what I just want to underscore your latter point. We are in active conversations, and including working to have our partner build a forecast model that helps us with application pipeline management. That's not fully built yet. That's in the development stage right now, so that we can be modeling that. So we are really trying to be thoughtful kind of going into this, because there is just some uncertainty about overall demand and what the overall, how quickly the funds potentially would be utilized. We do know that some states that have opened up statewide programs have already closed them. So there are at least a couple of states, New York State, they were open for several months, but they have already closed them based on application demand that they're seeing in their states. Other states aren't reporting that robust of activity. Now, if I were to guess, I would expect that demand could be quite strong in Minnesota, in part because we have you as such strong partners. I also saw you had a question come through about the dashboard. We are working to develop a dashboard that will be available for the home help program as well. So we anticipate we would have that type of dashboard for home help as well. Great question. Really appreciate that. And I think these are great areas where, kind of as we continue to do work on these things, great things for future follow-up for community connector meetings, so we can keep in contact with you about the progress and even, just some internal snapshots as things are being developed of what we're working on and toward. So really appreciate your suggestions and recommendations in this space, and your nimbleness too, right? I think your question is getting at, okay, we initially anticipated, the program might last a full 2 years. That may not be the case, right? We just don't know. And so, recognizing that that creates a lot of work for you. Nimbleness creates work for all of us, right? We think it'll happen in X time frame, and instead it will happen likely in Y. One thing we know, we won't be quite precise with what we think will happen. Something different will likely happen. So just appreciate, this team as we're thinking through how we can be nimble together and share information in potentially a fast-paced moving environment too, because I think that's going to be critical for our partnership and for the program's success. So thank you for the conversation.
Thank you both. Sam, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, mine actually just a comment. I think, like I said last time, the biggest challenge we have with this program is we don't have the materials to sell or to share with our community. So it's kind of tough when they ask you so many questions and you don't have those kind of questions that they're looking for. And also want to say that there is a need actually, and people are waiting for help, and sometimes I kind of hesitate to share so much because you don't want to be overwhelmed by people calling my phone every time because they need help. So there's a catch-22 up here. I want to help. I don't have the materials. And you find, like last week, I was sharing with two people after church service, and they're asking me, if you're going to share with us this information, how come you don't have the information right now? Because that is the anticipation of so many people. They want you to share. You tell them there is this resources there because they need that. They are stressed into their life, and they're struggling. They are carrying this mortgage baggage and they want to get rid of it. It's kind of a heavy weight here. So that's where I am, and you find sometimes people get disappointed. You find that, like today morning, somebody had called me and asked me, are you still going sure? Are you sure that the program will kick off next month? Will there be any postponement? Because I want to guarantee, because either I sell my house or I stay or I divorce. No, he was just going through some stuff telling me into his head. So I told him, I'm going to get more information for you. But I can only share what I know at the moment. Yeah. So it's very frustrating when you go deeper into, like I said, when you have so many people together and they ask those kind of questions, and you can feel it, from the people. So that's my biggest challenge I'm getting.
Yes, I hear you for sure, and I can imagine that frustration for sure. And we're definitely in this weird moment of, we have some information. We know folks need the program now or, yesterday, but we don't have the program to offer yet. So it's tough. I think, we'll kind of continue to be in this space until early April when we get some marketing materials to you all to use. And I think at that moment, you're going to have materials, but it's still, the program won't be open. But at least you can start explaining all the details on, like, here's all the documents you need to go collect. Here are the specifications. Hopefully you can provide some more detailed information, but I recognize that it's a tough moment to be in for sure. Thanks for sharing.
And again, too, there is also the fear about, is this money going to be enough? Because you can tell there is that presumption that, so many people are going to apply because what happened after COVID. So there is that backlog of loan payments, mortgage payments, which have not been paid. And so how is that gonna make sure that everybody comes to the table? How is a department going to make sure that all these people who are applying, they'll be getting help? So there is concern. Is it money going to be enough? Am I going to be on the queue? Am I going to be the person who will be on 31st? A month has got 30 days. You wait for 30 days. Am I going to be the person on 31st who's going to miss the fund for the mortgage? So it's hard to explain to these people, all these. So the only thing I'm saying, just wait, and I'm having names of people with their emails in case of when it opens. I can be able to send these people to the website or the call center and get them and sign up as soon as possible.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Amanda, I'm not sure if you're still on the call. I think it might be helpful for us to think about in our talking points that we provide to you all, just really specific talking points about how important it is to get, your application in right away and all of your documents right away so that your application can start processing. So we can, I think, do some work around, like, how do we explain the importance of that so that when you're presenting to your communities, you can tell them, like, here's how to get in the queue right away. You got to have your documents uploaded so that your processor isn't waiting for those, because the sooner you get all of that complete, the sooner the processor can start working on your application. So I'll work with Amanda in communications to just think through some of those talking points that can be really specific about here's the, what to do so that you have the best chance of getting in the queue right away for this money. Hopefully that will help. It won't solve the problem, but I'll work on that for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I do want to share that I'm hoping that, we'll continue to have these feedback discussions, one through your progress report. Be sure to put whatever you're thinking, feeling in those, because I am reading those and documenting those and responding to those. Also share at these meetings. Share in office hours. If you had something come up, jump on my office hours on Thursday, let me know. And I think most of you know that I'm available by email or phone if something comes up, or if you have a question, don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll do my best to just document all this feedback and get some responses. And, if you are facing a challenge or whatnot, it's probably likely that another organization is experiencing the same. So bring it up and maybe we can address it as a group to just make things go a little bit smoother. So thank you for sharing feedback. Any other feedback or questions? We're kind of naturally entering into question and answer time. So any questions, feedback, thoughts you want to share?
When we submit, like we did last week, for the reports, what is the time? Where was the submitting time and the time it was received?
Yes, good question. I don't think I can give you a specific time frame yet. I will know more once this month's process is complete. But I think I can say that from the moment I submit it to like our accounting for processing, it's 10 business days from then. So we'll kind of see how that plays out, and I think we'll have a better idea on the timing. But I will try to get those submitted as soon as possible after you complete your submission, so that they're on their way to accounting, and then it's on their way to your bank account.
I know last week when I was doing mine, it was locking me out for doing multiple of PDF,
Yes.
So I just did one. I was like, this is not a lot. I'll
Yes.
see how this one goes.
Yes, thank you for that. We did get that fixed. So now you will be able to upload multiple files. So we did not realize that was a problem. So thank you for testing that for us, and we fixed it.
I mean, will that mean, like, for our first one, since we were only, it was a small amount, will we be asked for additional information with that, or is this what we submitted? Is it enough?
Good question. Let's touch base on it in particular. I can't quite remember the details on what you submitted.
Okay, that would be nice.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. Yeah, and hopefully the invoicing and reporting process was fairly smooth for you all. I know we worked out several kinks along the way, so you should be able to upload multiple files now, but always reach out if you encounter a problem when we do it again next month. So yeah, your next invoice, and maybe I'll just share that now, your next invoice will be due on the 15th of April. And that will come up probably quickly, right? And then we'll be getting together again on April 6th, which is just a couple of weeks from now. We have a meeting scheduled for April 27th as well. And I think to be determined what the topics will be, but I think we'll have a lot to talk about based on if the program is launching and the call center and website and all of those things. So we'll keep the April 6th on the calendar, the April 27th on the calendar, and then office hours. I am available on Teams every Thursday from 10:30 to 11:30. I love when you pop in and say hi or ask questions, so I'm always there, but you can email me or call me as well. Anything else you want to address today? And just a reminder, I'll send out the slides, I'll send out the recording so that you didn't have to memorize everything we covered today.
Vanessa. We just sent 2 days ago the invoice and the report from NADC. Just want to know if you get it.
Yes, thank you. I'll be looking at that this afternoon.
All right.
Thanks for reminding me.
I see one question in the chat about how will the applications be processed and if it will be first come, first serve based on income or need. We do anticipate that there will be some prioritization for those at imminent risk of foreclosure. So that there will be, again, some prioritization there, though it needs to be within a time where we could still operationalize getting the application reviewed and the assistance out to the servicer and that foreclosure potentially postponed. But essentially, anyone who's in that 30-day, once they submit the application, have completed the online fields or through the call center or through the paper fields, even if there are some missing uploads, again, we want to encourage as much completeness as possible because those will move into the queue faster. But essentially, anyone who submits the full application, even if there's missing documentation, that moves forward to a processor queue. And the processor is going to work that file. And they're going to touch that file with missing applicant information every 5 days. So every 5 days, they're going to reach out to the homeowner and say, you know, if they have to provide income documentation, they don't meet the zip code proxy. They got to provide full income documentation or the 1040. We're still missing the 1040. You know, can you please submit that? And it's got 30 days. And so that's how we're trying to prioritize people within that queue to cast kind of that wider net and make sure that there is that support. Now, you know, if there were to be, you know, such overwhelming demand that we couldn't process everyone in that queue, we would have to determine kind of what those next steps would be and how we would prioritize people within that queue. But the goal is to create a robust enough program so that we can manage the pipeline, so we can still serve. Our goal is to be able to serve people within that queue, but then figure out when message when we would need to stop accepting applications. That's our goal. I see a whole bunch of questions coming through now. How would they reach out to the homeowner? So it would be, there's a combination of both voice to voice as well as some automatic kind of ping reach outs, but it's not just automatic system. There's also voice to voice at certain intervals within those 30 days. And then if somebody, you know, the files will also be flagged, you know, again, if they aren't using an online system, they may need just voice to voice interaction, that type of thing, so that we're matching the type of interaction that the homeowner needs. Criteria for denying assistance. Essentially, a denial would happen if the homeowner wasn't eligible. So if the income documentation demonstrated that they were actually over income, if they couldn't provide proof of ownership. But again, in those cases, the processor is going to be working with the homeowner. We're not going to deny someone just because the documentation is missing. We're going to first follow up to get it. And if something's incorrectly supplied, there's going to be follow-up that happens to say, oh, I think you incorrectly uploaded your kid's report card, which is something I would do, right? Or something. And you meant to upload this, right? Because, you know, parents were busy people and you sometimes upload the wrong thing in the wrong place. But essentially, the criteria for denying assistance is based on you don't meet one of the eligibility requirements. But again, if it's an error or something incorrect, we're going to go through that checking process. Vanessa's getting kudos for her awesome communication, so thank you for that, and much appreciation and well deserved. Letter USPS. This was a hurdle. Jeanette, do you want to say more about the letter, the USPS? I'm not sure what you mean by the letter.
Oh, just maybe considering also sending folks a letter. So we have a lot of folks that fall into that technology gap. Mm-hmm. And we had this experience too in other programs in more rural settings. With a phone and the email, just it was not reaching folks. They communicated much more and relied more on physical paper letters for means of communicating. So I was just wondering if that is a possibility or if it's going to be more tied to both just phone calls and, you know, having an email address and accessing your email, that sort of thing. So
Yeah, so that's a great question, and we should open up some conversation on that, because our thinking is that between, you know, and again, if it's not an online user, the processor wouldn't be reaching out online, right? So we're trying to sort of couple the what type of user is it, but our hope would be that the phone would be a way to reach people, because I think there's also some concern on our end around, if we're sending things via snail mail, that can cause delays versus that voice-to-voice interaction can happen in a much quicker order. So our hope was that we could communicate more quickly, particularly if there's missing information, so that we could, again, help work with that homeowner to get that back to us as quickly as possible to keep things flowing through the queue. But interested in your thoughts and perspective there. Because there's been a lot of concern about, you know, delays using USPS and mail, and just kind of the lapse of time that can happen there, and wanting to make sure, you know, our call center is reaching out in a really courteous and responsive way, and that USPS may not feel the most responsive.
Right, and it also may be a place where you could tap back into us as connectors, if we were already involved with the individual and getting them connected to the call center. I don't know if that's going to be a part of the case note, or if they'll know how the person got connected.
If the homeowner answers, there is a question when they apply online, how they, you know, heard about the program. So there is that opportunity. And again, you know, this is sort of that space of making sure we're clear about, you know, your responsibilities, which really center and focus around community engagement, but certainly recognize you're vested in the success of people applying, but that, you know, this grant is intended to really support the engagement and making sure that the vendor who's responsible for processing is both, you know, paid to do that work, but also is doing that work responsibly. So I think this is just a great area to open up continued communication around, to see how that experience is going, especially for homeowners, you know, that need that additional outreach. And if we need to make some other considerations, that we're open to that. And maybe as you're communicating with folks too, again, if there is missing documentation, or if a servicer ends up needing something before the final approval can happen, right? Because there could be something additional the servicer needs, helping to prep and prepare homeowners that, you know, please do try and answer that cell phone number that may look unfamiliar. I know a lot of us are like, oh, go to voicemail, I don't want to answer that call. But that there might be some good strategy there. And because I think we are trying to drive toward, you know, getting in touch with the homeowner as quickly as we can. So that might be a good area for just continued brainstorming, troubleshooting. I appreciate you raising these questions.
So Devon, I've got one more last question I want to ask you. So assuming in a worst case scenario, if the fund ends in 8 months, and as connectors in this program, we have a 2-year contract, what's going to happen?
Well, and I think that's an area where I know you all have individualized work plans, and where you all have different timelines and budgets. And so, you know, I think there will be variable situations where if you have front-loaded engagement work, and, you know, depending on, and that's where staying connected with what's happening with the pipeline and the dashboard, I think that's been brought up kind of as part of this conversation and this call, becomes really important. Because if we start to really see that funds are getting faster, more quickly subscribed than we'd anticipated, we also want to make sure we're communicating that with you, so that you can both do the targeted outreach, but then also be compensated for that outreach, so that we're building that queue to serve people most in need. So I think that's where we'd ask you to stay nimble with us and flexible with us, because that outreach is critical in helping us make sure we're reaching those targeted homeowners. And so it may require just adjusting some of the timelines around anticipated engagement, so that we first and foremost reach those homeowners, and that you get paid for that work that you're doing to help us do that.
Thank you.
thank you for the great questions and, just the willingness. I know in a perfect world, we could sort of say, we anticipate this chunk of work in Q, A, B, or C, and I just don't think we'll have that luxury here. So I also just want to extend appreciation for, recognizing there are some unknowns and being willing to be nimble with us along the way so that we, don't lose sight of the homeowner, and also making sure, you get paid for that outreach work that you're doing and supported.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the great questions today. It was great to connect with you and share more information. And I think as we move along, we'll be talking about many more questions and more details. I know we're at time and you all have places to be, I bet. So I think we should adjourn, but know that I'll be online tomorrow if you have follow-up questions, or give me a call. And then I will definitely see you on April 6th with more details as we get closer to launch. So thank you again. Good to see you. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
See you later.
Bye.